That reminds me, I do need to check out the Ep111g mod that is now available on FarmSim22. See if it does come in Challenger colours. Maybe if we do end up on Calmsden Farm, that will be our big tractor. I may skip having the 940, Axion 940, which we've had a lot in the past. Did you stop again? I guess you did. Okay. How's about I do this? Maybe not. I honestly can't remember what we had. We had two 940s on law folds, and I think a Zerian. Don't recall if I had a Challenger. Here you go. Actually, I could possibly check that. Did I have a Challenger on law folds? No, I had a big JCB. We had a big yellow tractor, just not a Challenger. So maybe we'll use the Ep111g again on our next farm in FarmSim22. Class tractors, I might go for something a little bit smaller. Because I don't think Calmsden warrants two big tractors like this farm does, or has. I mean, I've really made a lot of use out of these two tractors. Let's see from the hours. They're both over 120 hours. But we might go for some more, probably still go for something like the Lumpkin plow, and still have another mid-sized tractor and a smaller plow. Because again, I probably intend on doing sugar beets and or potatoes again, because they do make a lot of money. On this row, I think. Now, if instead I end up on Court Farm, I've heard Court Farm is small and medium-sized fields, so something this size almost definitely not needed. Now, obviously not going to be featuring much in the way of case, since we didn't get much in the way of case for FarmSim22. So I may be looking at New Holland would be a fair choice. Not sure whether we'll go with Massey or Fent. I mean, again, either one of those works. But it depends also on our main concentration of animal farming. probably not going sheep again. Toying with the idea of just doing a cow farm, but again, not sure whether dairy or beef at this point. Like to see what the relative income levels of each are, or could be expected to be. So we're going to have to run a little cattle test. Before we do anything. I think the other thing about Calmsden is it's going to be a little bit difficult to get into production. The farmyards generally don't seem to have much in the way of placeable space. Kind of like the main yard here. You're stuck with what you have in the way of buildings. You can go. So we look down here. That yard there has anywhere placeable, but there's that placeable area by the church where we've got all of our additional sheds for equipment. Now Calmsden doesn't have any on-farm or close to farm placeable areas, but it does have placeable areas. They're quite big and you could put production on them, but they're also quite expensive. So that does lend towards looking into not going start from scratch, but going farm manager so that you can afford at least one of those and actually place a production building or two to increase your income. For the most part, there is a fairly strong encouragement economy-wise to get involved in production in FarmSim 22. I mean, obviously it's the new thing, so they want to, Giants want to encourage you to experience all the new stuff. We got sorghum, which is, quite a labouring friendly crop, and it fits in with wheat, oats, barley, that sort of thing. So it's not a big change up. Olives and grapes are another one of those. It's going to cost you a good amount of money to get into those crops, and it's going to cost you a lot of money to make them worthwhile. Because of the cost of equipment, the cost of setting up a vineyard or an olive grove. I mean, it costs tons of money just to set that up, and so that is going to be a bit of an issue when you're deciding what you want to do. I did notice that while it's not on the mod hub, someone has produced a beer production facility. I think they used one of Giant's production models, but it's basically what are they using? I honestly can't remember, but it's something along the lines of sugar plus wheat, or sugar plus barley, or sugar plus wheat plus honey plus something. They did honey beer. I think they did strawberry beer, which, you know, sugar plus strawberries plus wheat gives you beer. Okay, we're done. Let's turn that off. Unload it. Oh, just the one extra one. Come on, drop. Okay, let's fold it up. That will usually encourage things. And I'm not sure, but I think Daggerwin unconsciously came up with a good suggestion. Someone suggested or asked somewhere, do you think that a potato chip production facility would be overpowered? Because potatoes do give you a lot of money. If you have a production facility that effectively doubles your income from potatoes, that could be quite overpowering. But Daggerwin made the suggestion, well, maybe we need I think a sunflower oil plus potatoes gives us potato chips. Well, if you add in the oil, then potentially that is a good deal, and not necessarily overpowered, because you're going to have to produce a lot of oil to go with your potatoes, depending on the mix of, okay, it's 10 litres of potatoes plus a litre of oil gives you 5 litres of potato chips or something. You're reducing the amount of potatoes that come out, and by using the oil, which is already a valuable crop, it may make it less overpowered, if you like. So we made 127. Ah well, 9 short of my guess. Meanwhile, Mr. Plough Tractor is nearly done, so but I like the idea of expanding the production facilities. One thing I would like to see is a winery. Grow grapes, make wine. But it's not something I don't think that Giants is likely to include as an option for production, because they tend to, you know, to keep their age rating. They can't include alcohol, tobacco, or whatever. So we'll never be able to go and hunt deer and do that. I mean, even animal sales, it's not you're selling beef cattle, you're just taking the cows to the dealership because you don't want them anymore and letting somebody else buy them. So, yeah, you're not selling the pigs for bacon, you're selling the pigs because somebody else can benefit from them. I guess that bit doesn't stick out any further. Oh well. Do the turn on create fields and expand what we're doing here. So class is out there ready to start planting all these fields. I'm not really in a rush to get this field planted either. I mean, we weren't going to get another cut now that I'm planting it with clover again. It's never going to be ready to cut before spring. The only hope I have now is that it's not delayed until early summer before I can do the first cut next year. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that planting this with clover will at least establish the clover before winter, so that next year fields 11, 8, 9 and the cow pasture or the cow barn field will all be good to harvest about the same time. Anyway. I think for now, obviously, as soon as I finish this, we'll run this over to the field up by Oakland farm and get that field tidied up. I'll do a little bit of I have to run the headlands with the seeder so that we can contain the class on that one field and not have them go gallivanting off elsewhere. I have a ton of bales to wrap, which I'm not really looking forward to, but it is what it is. And then next week we will probably be back, and it may be time to harvest something a little bit more interesting than clover again. So potentially the sugar beets and or potatoes will be ready, and we can get into the sunflowers too, because those are all can be harvested at this time of year. It's just they're not quite ready yet. At least they weren't when we checked them this morning. Now sometimes it has been known that that field, that field, that field and that field. Okay, all the fields are on the screen. So no, they're in late stage of growth. So no big expectations for the rest of today. Sometimes it takes a few minutes for the game to catch up with sleeping overnight. So you get up in the morning, you check everything, and then 2 hours later you're checking the map overlays again. It's sort of, oh, they're ready. Well, I wasn't quite expecting that yet. We had that, I think, with the clover. I'd looked in the morning and we'd gone out, we cut the spelt, and then it's sort of, okay, the spelt fields are all cut. What do we need to do to those fields? Oh, the clover needs cut. So, taken a little bit by surprise sometimes. But it's because I'm, first thing I do after the night is check the overlays to see, what do we actually need to do today. That reminds me, on other counts, sheep need cleaned, they're all fed, they're all fed. They're all fed. Actually, the cleanliness on the sheep is better than it was first thing this morning, which I think means that the grass that is in their untidiness area has actually rotted a bit, and thus improved their level of cleanliness. Which is kind of what I expect. I actually like that you don't have to mess around with cleaning up the animal troughs in Farm Sim 22. Obviously in real life you do need to, but in Farming Simulator it's kind of a clunky mechanism. That it sort of works for sheep, because the untidiness is grass and they eat grass or hay, so you can just dump it straight back in their trough, assuming there is vacancy for it. But with cows, I'm feeding them TMR and they're dropping grass. And I don't want to feed them grass because grass is a really trash food. And in Farm Sim 22, you really, really, really don't want to feed your cows grass. So you end up with grass, and it's well, there's nothing I can do with this after shoveling it off the ground. With pigs, I think they drop corn, which again, it can be shoveled straight back into their feed trough. Farm Sim 17 wasn't too bad because cows would... I believe they ate everything. So, you feed them TMR, hay and grass. And they eat it all. So loading their trough up with some grass wasn't too bad, but since 19 they only eat the best food that you've provided them with. So if you give them grass and hay and TMR, they only eat the TMR. Okay, we are nearly done ploughing this. Take a look at the overlay when we're done here, just to make sure. And I think we need to relocate this over to our field on whatever road leads by Oakland. I think if I were ever to play this map again as a series, I would probably do an Oakland farm thing. Okay, that is all done. I am not seeing any blotches of red, so good. So this is Oakland Farm, field 36 is a possibility. You're looking at some big fields there. And Oakland Farm is that. 122 plus 990 plus 1,000,000. Or maybe plus 300. See, that's a very expensive start. Or maybe you pick some of the fields at the top there and look to expand into 36 later. But anyway, we are heading out to field 31 now. Space by. Why isn't escape working? My keyboard's messed up. There we go. Okay, let's flip the plow. get us back into transport mode. Come on. Yay. Oh, there is a lot of stuff there. Possibly another bale worth, but no big deal. So I think we put the baler away. The Challenger is where the Challenger is. We get to go for a little country drive. Brakes on, let's get in the cab. Wow, that's an interesting point of view. And it is now after midday, so I probably should be calling us a time now. So I will be back next week. At this stage, that's the plan, on Oakfield Farm, Farming Agency Edition, Farming Simulator 19. We will probably be looking at harvesting some of the final 4 fields we have to harvest this year, preparing some of our fields for crops for next year, and probably really getting the sheep ready for winter. Well, maybe not. We'll be in early fall. For winter, I'm going to have to concentrate on getting the sheep's health up, getting the troughs cleaned up, and really setting them up for the next breeding season. And if we're lucky, we will make 1,500 sheep by spring next year, which was one of our goals, one of our crazy goals. And basically I decided, well, since this map supports 3 fields of sheep, I think the idea was you move them around the fields, but I said, to heck with that, we're going to fill them up. So 500 sheep per field. It's going to be a lot of fun. Anyway, drive up here. And then what else is going on? And that's it. So yes, and we'll probably have some silage to sell as well, because that's going to be becoming a thing. We've got 28 bales need to be sold, 28 bales that need to be sold tomorrow. And then we're going to have our big silage bunker that's going to need to be moved. And here we are. Our former maize field. Anyway, so that, we shall say, is that. Have a good weekend, have a good coming week, and I hope to see you next week, but for now I'm